inside Parliament where they literally call for recognizing the South as a separate nation with its own president. So I would just say this, like, the version of history that we have is so far from what the actual source files show, and I would just encourage you to read those because they haven't been accessible, and for some reason they are now. So just
this is the biggest reason that I appreciate your space is because it's like it's an advanced U.S. history class. You're not gonna learn these things in any class, not even in college. Okay, the point I wanted to start at, I just mentioned Lincoln because that was a significant assassination, right? But that was just like, it was just the beginning. It was just like, okay, so they have the power to do that. And so for the longest time, it didn't rear its head again until JFK really truly like in a really big way. And then it's just been rampant ever since. But to understand what I'm talking about, here is a bullet point. I have bullet points. From the 1830s to the 1890s, this period of time, European banking dynasties, the Rothschild, the Warburg, the Schiff, the Baring, plus American robber baron houses, Morgan, Rockefeller, Kuhn-Loeb, I don't know how to spell that. Kuhn-Loeb, all right. So you know this material. Consolidate transatlantic finance. That is a bullet point I wanted to bring. I yield there.
Interesting term there, right? Transatlantic finance.
Wasn't Wells Fargo transmitting on telegraph or transatlantic cables?
They all have to. But we don't own those cables. That's the crux of the issue, and always been the crux of the issue. So yeah, with the history, especially these documents, it's like you're revisiting history, but you're finding the accurate version of it. And that's why my thing is like, go directly to the source, go directly to the archive. And always press to check foreign archives, foreign languages. Like when I do research now, I'll research in like 10 different languages because you would be surprised what like pamphlets in an archive somewhere will tell you about a royal charter or the corporate structure of governance. It's very interesting.
And Michael, I was going to say, can you do like a primer on how to access the various archives for research?
Hell yes. That could be like one of my, I would say, probably first or second episode, 100%. It's so interesting. Like, for some reason, right, again, I can't put my finger on it. It probably has to do with Ericsson New Star. But the case files, especially from 2014, but the privatized records that were backdoored through MIT, I mean, you're talking about, like, not the hypothetical version of history for the Titanic. You can actually look up every investor, every insurer that was involved, the people that were involved, the cases that were involved. And this might sound boring to most people, but...
Well, yeah. That just ties it up. Doesn't RMS mean Royal Mail Ship?
Yeah! Which makes it infrastructure owned by the king.
What about White Star Lines and all of that?
Yeah, White Star Line comps too. Basically, Morgan comes in and marries his daughter to Charles Francis Adams III, who they claim is descendant of the President John Quincy Adams and the Adams family. But from my research, I'm finding that there's a major discrepancy in the corporate boards that they claim that these individuals were on. And I pulled all their records, all their property records, all their corporate records, and that was what started this whole rat race way back when, like 2017 and 18 when I got cancer. And so, you know, there's a version of history that they've told us, and then there's the version that the files actually show. And I think the version that the files actually show is way more fascinating. And so it sucks because it's like, oh my God, we've been lied to. But it's not that bad because in reality you can actually find the source truth and then compare and contrast it. So I think revisiting Lincoln is fucking amazing because he straight up calls out, you know, the Queen specifically. He's like, you're privateering. You know, you're literally disabling our ability to conduct commerce. And then you parse that with like, okay, if I'm looking at a story and it involves German royal family, the British royal family, the Rothschilds, right? So you want to look in all the places they did business, and then all the languages where those corporate records would be stored or filed, and you put that in the prompt, specifically saying, I want you to check all these different archives. And I don't know, maybe it's like I've just mind warped my AI to like do this so often that it's just doing it on the regular. But yeah, we've got access to archives that we didn't before. Like I said, the secret Five Eyes agreement, that's made between FDR and he also creates FBI SIS, he creates OSS, and that secret treaty has never been online, and found it, along with 555 other documents that will tell you the complete signals intelligence history of the Five Eyes agreement and the secret aspects of it. So to me, it's fascinating. Probably to most other people, it's not that fascinating, but you can think about the East Wing of the White House, where first, under FDR, he builds a private room, and it's like a collaborative trust. It's really a bunker, and that's where that agreement was, where its power source was. So I know that the fact that I'm staring at these files and I'm checking the Wayback Machine, I'm checking internet history to see if, has this file ever been on the public front-facing internet? And it's showing me no, it's not. So that's all out there, and I think that changes the game a lot. Does it cause us to have a slight bit of dependence on Israel? Yes. But I genuinely think that Israel will be reformed, the UK will be reformed, and the United States will be reformed. Because we're just too captured.
This is America. Who got you flipping them? Who got you flipping them?
I think it's important to note, like, as far as ownership claims of different departments too. I think it was mentioned LinkedIn and Secret Service. But what isn't really well talked about is that Washington, quote, unofficially created his own form of a Secret Service agency. And this is what, in part, was crossing the Delaware sort of thing, and spies and coming around to the backside and conquering and so on and so forth. But with Lincoln, it's kind of that history shift too, because if you look into the Pinkertons, that has a big part to do with what modern day sort of I guess police force and intelligence and the Secret Service apparatus is kind of modeled off of, which, interestingly enough, has to deal with railroads, and shipping lanes, and land, connecting to the sea, and how that plays a role in things. So, obviously goes back to the British sort of.
That's really all that matters, because you don't need to control
How much of the cost of traveling all this way for this formality?
The navigators until 1.46 million 62 salaries. They were dominating during the Civil War. The British Empire had a vastly powerful, whether it was private industry, East India Company.
Kings did not pay homage to Achilles.
Perhaps the kings were too far behind to see.
And
The soldiers wouldn't
it's not really a close
Victory remembers Kings.
so it's just all them and their cousins.
I'll build monuments to victory on every island of Greece. I'll
How they control
carve everyone in the stone.
I've gone.
My name will last through the ages.
It's just hard to get primary source files that you can actually trust. But with these empires, that's able to tell you that that's something Lincoln
You want gold?
created himself. And
It's my gift.
a month,
To honor your
2 or
courage,
3 months
to
before Lincoln gets assassinated, he also forms through
No argument with you, brothers, but if you don't want to, you'll never see home again.
So he saw, I'd imagine he saw the Southern District of New York, which is literally nicknamed the Sovereign
Too
District.
many people have died today.
How
Killing's your only talent, that's your purse.
a royal
I don't want anyone dying for me.
because sales court. It's still
Achilles.
on that land.
Silenced by a
It's
slave
one of those
girl.
things where like a month or two
Kings
after
did not-
Southern Eastern District of New York is formed,
Isn't it
and
funny
he
how
gets
people
assassinated. So yeah, really interesting. All this stuff is stuff that we not only will revisit but can revisit. And while we're doing this space, I'm going to put a report together that show everybody literally, corporately, legally, and break down every law, where in the charter, where you can access it, and I'll put that report at the bottom of the desk. So then anyone, it might be a pretty long report, like 25 pages, 27 pages, anybody that can read through that, line item by line item, how we're still operating Crown charters, and how we're still catching. But
Mr. Barker, he's the first one.
yeah, for me, I just try to look at it like, I try to not take in what the movies, their version of history told me, and I just go because like, you think about it, right? These are the same tables that Joseph was trying to cite in the way, and that MIT was trying to set the right. It goes very deep. It involves like all of the research, private court records, Titanic itself, like the Titanic was at that time in 1913, the admiralty jurisdiction of the case that basically stated that the liability of that applicant that voted claimed that liability. And when that was not,
That's a big deal because it happened in international waters. That's a huge deal, and people need to understand why that's claim too now, right? Because the educational land that the state's gobbled up, all 16 to 50,000 acres per state is under deemed educational land. Well, where do you think that goes? It goes right to the universities, right? So it's all tied in.
yeah, they funded to public schools. It's like taking the history of a person and, making it a legal fiction and then telling
Whenever you see an older man with
Library of Congress, and they formed. So ironic about it is FDR has no national archives place. Really what that's doing is collecting all the documents and archives and research, all documents in the government and centralizing it, but not so you can release it, so that you can control
It has everything to do. Hold on, let me take it from here. J. Edgar that's another story for another day. My next bullet point really quickly is going to be from 1898 to 1910, the group that we've been discussing, we're going to hereby acknowledge them as Cabal. From 1898 to 1910, the same group crushes populist pre-civil movement, eliminates competing private currencies, and begins drafting
why do you post every day when you barely get 100 likes?
Plan. So it's the beginning of why they had to sink the Titanic in 1912.
That may seem small to you,
but
it motivates me. I know my audience is out there, and when they find me, they will support me.
Why do you post?
It's fun, man. It's in history. It's like, and my thing is, again, even all of the versions that we're all talking about, I would implore you to go search the archives. You will see the case records, the original archives, and just access to data and information that's not relevant to people. But
I'm going to hold the audience for
Another news, Illinois Rex.
all is actually an acronym. Hands up, thumbs up, wave your arms. Would you like to know if that's actually
All it takes is
Christopher Columbus
Well,
did
before
not
we get
discover
there,
America.
We have to do some station identification because we haven't, and we're always
How you can discover a place where the inhabitants are watching you arrive from the shore. There are actually many other mariners before Columbus that discovered America as well. Decades earlier, even eons earlier, many of these pre-Columbian explorers might have come from Africa, out that Columbus himself was aware that African mariners had preceded him. In his diary of his second voyage, Columbus tells about how the natives of Hispaniola actually had given him gold-tipped metal spearheads that they said were brought by black-skinned people who had come in large boats from the south and southeast. Coincidence? I think not. No. Christopher Columbus did not discover America. How you can discover a place where the inhabitants are watching you arrive from the shore. There are actually many other mariners before
Socially installed bureaucracy that actually transfers money and does all the commerce for them. And through history, they've been professional scapegoats. So that's the situation actually.
And that's why Candace and the whole situation is important to understand, because their relationship to this group is very important to understand. So yeah,
They burned, the French and the British burned down our White House and never paid them back for it. It's probably time.
So, do something. If we're going to start talking about professional scapegoats, are we going to talk about the Freemasons tonight?
Well, yeah. I actually did share some material right there. What a Masonic kid like at the top levels.
Want to create your own?
They call them the dark arts. I will call it the dark arts.
Are you a Mason?
Think of it like they perverted the truth of everything.
Nobody brought the Almighty
They really did. So, like, what your modern thought or version of a thing is, like, if it's something that falls under the branch of something that their cousins or something that they're the head of, right? And they perverted it. So there'll be the version that's popularized, and then there's like the actual iterations after. The Freemasonry, I definitely don't think that. I think what they used it for back in the day, and how they perverted it, comes in with that thing. But it was like the primary method of getting different groups together, whether it's the active life, drink, taking out the fresh book, it's all, it wasn't formed in them, and they wouldn't take the story. It's, they all come from the super extent, safety, and that's a fun fact. Post-World War II, Russia has
contents of all of those libraries today.
I was always asking.
They also, Russia also, there was the American Russian company, which
How much
never
bigger
gets
you gonna
mentioned.
get?
But Russia
Yeah, little
like,
man's
was on our
little
side on
boys.
this a lot during the Civil War.
But that joker right here is 800 pounds. Maybe a little.
Rabbit holes. So I do want to invite anybody that wants to speak, has questions, wants to talk about Candace, wants to talk about how crazy the world we're living in is.
We made a commitment to the audience, Mike. You have to explain how cabal is an acronym.
My bad. Yeah, so it is the Cabal Ministry, or Cabal refers to a group of high counselors of King Charles II of England, Scotland, and Ireland. So think about that, right? Being king of England, Scotland, and Ireland at the same time. So that means you could have Scottish foreigners that could, in that regiment or that group, go and infiltrate. So it's very beneficial to be a king of multiple nations or territories. The term cabal has a double meaning. In this context, it refers to the fact that for perhaps the first time in English history, effective power in a royal council was shared by a group of men, a cabal, rather than dominated by a single favorite. The term also serves as the acronym CABAL, named for the 5 privy councillors, Clifford, Arlington, Buckingham, Ashley, and Lauderdale, who formed the council's committee for foreign affairs. Foreign affairs, that right there is your keystone. Look into the foreign affairs, look into the history, look into the version they told you, and then find out that they lied. These 5 members made up the cabal, Clifford, Arlington, Buckingham, Ashley, Lauderdale, which held most of the power within that government. C stands for Sir Thomas Clifford, 1st Baron Clifford. Anyways, their fucking names are so annoying.
Are there any dots to connect there from those names to the people who are at the helm of these 2 national organizations? One being the Council for National Policy, right?
Yeah,
the one that you don't hear about, the Council for National Policy and the Council of Foreign Relations.
Yes, you'll find it like in the United States. You have the diplomatic corps, which is French for corps diplomatique. It's a collective body of foreign diplomats accredited to a particular country or body. Diplomatic corps may, in certain contexts, refer to the collection of accredited heads of missions, ambassadors, high commissioners, nuncios, and others who represent their countries in another state or country. So diplomacy wasn't something that they created. It was actually the concept. Well, I don't actually know because India probably, they were controlling it. But yeah, Council appear as if they're the heroes and they're, saving people from tyranny when in reality they're the terrorists. And they're just limiting their liability by having a group of nations say, we're all coming together in the unified defense of each other, even though that makes no sense. So
I should like to ask some questions now of a gentleman by the name of, he's a governor right now in Florida, last name DeSantis.
Yeah. You asking me about him or what?
No, this is something that I believe that he might have some insight on. These questions, these very questions, right? The ones where.
Hey, Governor DeSantis, I got you on the telephone. I got somebody named C11 that wants to talk to you on X Spaces right now. Can you take a question, Governor?
Hey, I'm not going to have to run, but thanks for holding the space. It's been great.
For sure.
It's good talking.
Hey, could I just say something, Michael? When you said their names are annoying, embrace it. Embrace it. Because Jean-Michel Strogno and Pierre Xavier Boussard and all these, this is how you build the intrigue. Yeah, just embrace it, man. The French names, the foreign names, the third, the fourth, the fifth. By the way, you're really laying it out great tonight. I'm actually really getting intrigued. I'm like, oh my God, now I'm gonna have to listen to episode or season 1 of Michael Ray Great to really get into it. Seriously, bro, you're breaking it down.
The French. What is that?
I said, you know how hard it is to keep this dude on the rails? Come on.
Impossible. But I just, where I do the most interesting work is when I'm researching and I don't have to put on any sort of front. I could just talk about stuff.
No, I really do know. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I know. He's crushing it tonight. It's understandable. This is awesome.
So I'll read the French Foreign Legion post because everyone's like, French Foreign Legion, French Foreign Legion. What is the French Foreign Legion? Well, I'll tell you guys.
Credit Vsauce real quick on that because Vsauce has been guiding them pretty well. Well done, Vsauce.
You ready for this, TGK? So, Mike, how many teeth do you have to qualify to be in the French Foreign Legion?
4, which goes back to the 4 original unified nations that formed the French Foreign Legion because it's comprised of foreigners, meaning not French. So I'll have to put this in the top of the nest. But so the French Foreign Legion was literally born directly out of the same royal bloodlines that rule the world today. In 1831, it wasn't some edgy Republican general who created the Legion. It was the French King Louis Philippe I, head of the House of Orleans, signing a royal ordinance to raise a corps of foreigners to fight France's dirty colonial war in Algeria. So French citizens didn't have to do it. That's the origin story. A royal foreign mercenary army built to project power while keeping political damage low at home. Here's the part that the history books often leave out. That same king's daughter, Princess Louise d'Orleans, marries Leopold I. That's the head of house of the Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. He's a prince. He becomes the first king of the Belgians, making her the queen of the Belgians. And so marrying French nobility into the German British House of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. So the queen, nobility into the bloodline, the German House of Saxe-Coburg. Their descendants, Leopold II, the king who turns the Congo Free State into his private extraction colony, Carlota of Belgium, Empress of Mexico, in a French-backed imperial project. Now plug in Queen Victoria and the rest of Europe. Leopold I of Belgium is the uncle and mentor of Queen Victoria. Victoria marries her own Saxe-Coburg cousin, Prince Albert, fusing the British throne with the German one into the same German Coburg web. Their children and grandchildren marry onto almost every major European throne. United Kingdom, Windsor's rebrand in 1917, but the bloodline, that's what matters. Bloodline is still Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. Belgium, Leopold line, they actually take over the brand of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha once the British relinquish it. And Belgium is based on Napoleonic Code. It's influenced from Napoleonic Code. So their declarations and all that are written in French. Spain is the Bourbon line tied into the wider Victoria-Coburg cousin network. Scandinavia and the Low Countries, royal houses in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Netherlands, Luxembourg, all plug into this network of bloodline families. So you've got one royal complex creating the French Foreign Legion to wage colonial wars with foreign bodies and marrying into Saxe-Coburg Victoria network that ends up ruling the UK, Belgium, Congo, Mexico, Bulgaria, Brazil, even they marry into the Russian throne, and even Germany. Kaiser Wilhelm is the descendant of Queen Victoria. So the people who all fought World War I, they're all royal noble cousins and family.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Two things to interject and add context. First, have any of you ever heard the phrase "symbolism will be their downfall"? Has anyone ever heard that phrase used in context ever? Show of hands, emojis, fart noises, something. Okay, to tie this together, real quick exercise for the audience. Go Google the state flag of Louisiana and tell me what's in the corner of the flag. Okay, I'll give you like 5 seconds.
Maybe their crest. I don't know if it's their state flag.
No, it's on the flag.
Okay.
The Masonic symbol.
It's the Union Jack. But also, what else happened in 1917, Mike?
1917? A lot of shit.
Yeah, like the Austrian nobility having their titles stripped and they were only allowed to maintain state employment. Oh, I'm sorry, shit, I was wrong. But hey, now you guys get to laugh at me and you won't forget it. Look at that, 1919. That's
good. That's a really important point because, right, Germany is this duchy. It's a country that's a group that's made up of different sovereigns that are sitting on the thrones of their own little county or jurisdiction. So they have their own house rules, and the imperial Germany has a different set of rules. So actually, the Prince Albert goes to serve in both as head of the Admiralty in the Royal Navy and swears an oath to Kaiser Wilhelm in 1983. So it's like, sorry, 1883, not 1983. So, it's the same royal families that are running point. But to finish up the post, it's the French Foreign Legion isn't just a romantic band of outcasts. It's a royal instrument born on a king's signature, wired into the same dynastic web that carved up Algeria, Congo, Mexico, and half of the 19th century world, and whose countries still wear crowns across Europe. Foreign soldiers, royal commands, same families, same empires, different countries, different uniforms, one royal bloodline. So, and you can literally see it right there on the two houses and the crests. The symbolism is right there, right in your face. And it all means stuff to these people, but to us, we're like, fuck off. We thought we ended this in 1776.
Yeah. Does that have anything to do with Candace?
Mm-hmm. When she says that the French Foreign Legion's after her, right? And that to DuPont's and Wilmington, Delaware, it's absolutely plausible. And not only absolutely plausible, the way she's talking about it is exactly how they do it. So, sure, to the average person, it sounds fucking crazy, but to the average person, they're trusting the FBI.
And again, wait, Mike, what about she shifted, wasn't it yesterday? It's to not the DuPonts, to some other PR dude?
The Ukrainian Israeli. Well, think about it, Matt. If you wanted to hire a hitman, would you want him to just be French, or would you want him to be French, Israeli, British, German?
What I'm saying is I actually, when she first said the guy's name was Pierre and he's a rich guy, and the whole thing started with she heard that there was a donor named Pierre, and there's a Pierre and he's a DuPont, and her friends were like, hey, you caught that, it's DuPont, and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh my God, it's Pierre DuPont, it's Pierre DuPont.
My good friend Luke.
The next day she's
Welcome to JDS Psychiatric Services with your friend. Music. I'm in the next space. It's called Is Candace Owens Over the Target?
She says it DuPont for some reason.
She says it's
DuPont.
Yeah, if I had a legitimate hit on my life, and I get 7 emails telling me this Ukrainian mercenary, sounds like, with a fake name, shows up down the street, it'd probably scare the shit out of me too, and I'd probably stop talking about the DuPonts and put all focus on this guy.
So now she's changing the narrative because she's scared. So now we can't trust her.
I don't know.
Listen, I know, I love your thing, but I know that you have your theories, but I just really do believe if someone wanted Charlie taken care of, they would call a black ops guy who was a trusted operator, and they would just send him a picture, and they would just say, get it done. It wouldn't be hundreds of people involved.
But do you think it'd be a good thing to do now, though?
Would it also consider the fact, sure, it could have been hundreds of people, but over the course of 60 years, how many people would have had to have actively collaborated, worked with the stated intent to, and still somehow managed to maintain secrecy of the JFK assassination?
Every country you can think of.
No, the thing would have been that it was taken care of, and then certain people in the higher-ups decided to keep it on hush-hush because it would make CIA look bad. When really it could have been one CIA commander, made a call, maybe 1 or 2 people involved. And, I just don't, and keep in mind, this is the president of the United States. Charlie Kirk, I know people said he was going to run for president. Honestly, I don't think he would have become president. I do think he had the year of the youth, but I don't think he really rose to the level of an international leader who was about to shut down the Federal Reserve and create banknotes and destroy and shatter the FBI into 1,000 pieces and stuff like that. I just really think if it was Macron's penis, they would have just made a call to a friend and they would have had a guy take care of business. This is not something that would be that hard to do. They could have taken him out in San Diego when me and Luke were there. They had the exact same opportunity. It didn't have to be that moment. It didn't have to be that day. They could have just followed him for a little while, waited, and took the shot. Simple as that.
So you're saying they made a show of it on purpose?
I'm sorry, what's that?
You're saying they made a show of it on purpose, you think?
Yeah, I'm going to say it for him.
I definitely think they wanted to shoot him, on purpose, but they could have shot him, in San Diego. Ask Luke. Where we were in San Diego, there was people on the roofs. I remember saying to Luke, I'm like, are those our guys or their guys? Who's on the roof?
Yeah, but it was multiple during those days.
It would have been just as easy in San Diego, and he was on TV, and it could have happened anywhere, anytime, on any of these campuses.
During that time,
any operator could have just followed him for a couple of times and went, this is my time, I'm taking the shot. Done.
Yeah, but it wasn't opportune at that moment because he was still I called him Charlie Cock at the time because he was fully in the back pocket of
Sure, but I just don't think it needs hundreds of people to sit down and say, okay, he crossed the line. Did he cross the line? Call the homeboy, call the French. He crossed the line. He did this. Call those. Call the Egyptians. Tell them to rent a hangar. Follow fucking Candace around for a few years. Have them stalk her here. Have them do this. Send in these guys. Send in those guys. Cover this. It's like so many people involved. I just think the larger and larger it gets, the less plausible it gets. That's all.
Well, I don't think we're going to get answers from our government because we're incapacitated. We can't get answers. JFK, MLK, Malcolm X, RFK. Those files are released, but the trust files, the real powerful stuff, that's not released and likely may never get released. So, yeah.
If I can take the interjection here just real quick to spit out the next bullet point because it's very relevant to what you're just saying. In 1910, right? In 1910, people were discussing secret drafting of the Federal Reserve Act by Nelson Aldrich, Rockefeller in law, Paul Warburg, Piot Andrew, Frank Vander Eyck, Henry Davidson Morgan, and Benjamin Strong. Jekyll Island meeting. That's where they sealed the fate of the Titanic and the three opposition. The other three. I think their names are coming up. I can do a quick search, but thank you. I yield.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I would implore you to look into that history a little more, because again, the corporate history of what I'm seeing versus what's actually in their own archives is not matching up. So 1913 is also when you have the Kingsbury Agreement, and AT&T is forced to give up its long lines to foreign companies.
The 16th Amendment. That was the year the 16th Amendment was ratified. The income tax. So now you know why they had to do that. So to make sure that money was going to go where it's supposed to.
I did have to agree with you, though, Michael, on the whole Foreign Legion thing. It's kind of, people might think that sounds weird, but if you put it in the perspective of just modern day contractors, the so-called contractor, the federal government and the military, whenever they want to run ops that they don't want to get, like something goes wrong, they don't want to be like, oh, that was our guy. If something goes wrong, they just go, yeah, we fired those guys. We're not using those guys anymore.
Exactly.
The chain of command doesn't go all the way up. And mercenaries and Heshings and foreign, military government. And you go back to Game of Thrones, literally, which this is all really about. And you'll see that they have hired armies and queens that have armies that work for them, and they do deals to get power and control over things because they command armies, and basically, so that does make sense.
But I would say also like getting the king to judicate your bidding, right? Because if he gets caught in privateering or funding wars,
the king's Jew.
There was literally a show I watched the other day. It was like a CSI type thing, but basically a guy in Texas had ordered to get this hooker murdered because he didn't want his wife to find out, because they were trying to run a scheme and basically extort him for like $50,000.
How many million people did he involve in hiring a hitman?
But here's
like back in the day, like when you're getting rid of the American president.
He went to a privatized group, right? And so that privatized group didn't have just one person go. They had multiple people that ended up going. So, I mean, who knows where that information or who they're passing it to that could potentially spread to be more than 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people.
I mean, back in the day when the JFK, before the internet, before the cell phone, before everyone had a camera on them, before everybody was a journalist, before anyone could disseminate information, sure, guys with cigars could sit around a room and be like, I think he's done. We can't deal with this anymore. I like the deal. Make the call. And yeah, they may have talked about it because they all were, and also they were infiltrated by a bunch of foreigners and stuff like that. They were good old boys, and they got the job done, and they decided to cross the line. It was like a mafia. But nowadays, everyone knows, like, the more people you involve in a conspiracy like this, I mean, once you involve the number of people that Candace has involved in this, there's no way someone hasn't blown the whistle or spilled the beans or doesn't have the info. There's just, once you get up to hundreds of people, it's just not plausible.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at it both ways. I think the fact that we have the ability to have the conversation is like the most important thing, right? Like we don't have to agree on everything. I don't agree with everything Candace says. But I just think she's pointing the needle in the direction that'll allow more people to understand how this has worked historically, and the deeper power structures that still capture and control our corporate, private, education, all of those things. But we'll go to Marie.
I agree. I just fear that she's going to take people away from the crime scene and from the actual facts of the case and just spiraling off into who owns hangars, the planes landed at. It's just too much.
When the case does play out, right? Are you going to trust the Tyler Robinson narrative or anything that the court tells us?
I've made multiple videos about it not being Tyler Robinson. Multiple videos about all the theories.
So where do you go then? Like, if you are Candace?
Well, I'll tell you what you do is she has enough people. She could have a protest around UVU or around any of these agencies and say, we demand these photographs. We demand this. We demand that there be no plea bargain. I mean, you got Bannon saying there isn't going to be a trial. There's going to be no rematch. I mean, there has to be. The American people absolutely must demand that there be a trial. Because if they have the weapon, they have the gun, they have the pictures, all the things they say they actually have, then it's case closed. And the idea of giving him some, like, oh, if he really is the guy, then why would you go, we don't want to go too hard on him? Like, we demand to see the evidence. We demand to see that. We demand to see the cameras. We demand to get him off. If it really isn't him, number one thing is get him off, because the minute they convict him, then the people can go along just like JFK forever and ever arguing about the facts. But once the actual physical apparatus has pinned it on a certain person, then for all intents and purposes, the case is closed. So if you can prove it isn't him, demand to talk to him, demand to speak to the guy, demand to ask what he has to say. Why can he not talk to the people? Why can't he talk to the public? Does he have rights? Is he an American citizen? Why can't we have a fund for his legal fund? Like, these are things that we could be doing to actually get to the bottom instead of spiraling out into an infinite number of fractalized concepts that are weird but not actually getting to the root of the problem.
Because they're running out the clock, Matt. That's the real answer.
And I agree getting to the bottom of it, but if we do it in the form of seeking emotional justice before objective justice, we're going to wind up in the exact same spot in points of history that we've been before. So my thought on this, and sorry to interrupt, but I think both of you are right, and I don't think that anybody was fully right at the same time. I think that we're in a situation where if we're looking at the kings of propaganda that have come through the British and Israel and different things, they're very good at playing both sides and feeding.
Why can't the people talk to Tyler Robinson? Why can't we talk to him? Why should nobody talk to him? How come there's been no word?
Well, and if I may,
I'll let you go. I'm not sorry, but every one of these Aurora shootings, this shooting, that shooting, they basically have these guys drugged up. They come out with red hair and they have a blanked out stare by the time they come out. This guy was an honor roll student. Like, he should be able to speak. We're
actually proving my point. You're proving my point. A lot of this is to stimulate the seeking of emotional justice so that the public loses its mind one direction or another, and then they'll switch hats and start feeding the other side. This happened all through Weimar Germany, up into Nazi Germany, through World War II. It's happening now in Portland, Oregon. That's probably the greatest example I can give. ICE, the National Guard, go up there and they start removing the homeless, and then everything kind of disappears, and a week later, there's people wearing MAGA gear and MAGA hats, except they still have the tactical helmets with the GoPros, and they're, quote, now suddenly helping ICE and National Guard round up the homeless and the immigrants, and ICE and National Guard are telling them go home. That's Antifa. And Antifa, since 1897, has been the driver for these elites, for the British, for the Bolsheviks, for Israel, and they've been paid to play both sides. And so when I look at what Candace is
to focus our intention on hearing from Tyler,
which I fully agree.
Instead of spiraling around on who's a Fed and who's not a Fed and whether the gun was or the gun wasn't. If we really believe that the number one thing to do is to analyze the actual supposed criminal and give him the actual rights that are supposed to be afforded under whatever whacked out freaking court system I'm sure Michael can tell you about.
I'm like 94% convinced that he doesn't even exist. So but that's.
And I agree. I agree with Matt's point. Like, logically, and Matt, you seem like a very objective person. right? And that's really the big difference between what we're dealing with the right and the left, or the red and the blue, is we have a certain mass that's very subjective. They're going to react emotionally. It's going to be about how they feel. And then you have people that are like, well, these are my feelings, but my feelings don't come first. I want the objective facts. And that you seem very objective. So to have people in that pool that are like, let's just talk to them and let us use our discernment, or let them have a voice so that we can get to the root of this, that would be an ideal thing. The problem is, because of propaganda and the way that they have created wars, like we go back to the Civil War and Abraham Lincoln, the British were supplying the South at the same time forcing the end of slavery, because they wanted to bring us to our knees. They had an 87-year-old grudge at that point.
Saying how we focus our intention on it's the amount of energy we put into, whether it was a 30-06 or whether Candace is a bad or Ian's a bad or Nick's a bad. If we were all to say, like, we want to get to the bottom of this, and no offense, if you want to talk about emotional things, I don't know which side you are on the. I'm not even.
I'm like hardcore objective. I want the facts.
So
but I look at these people.
I feel.
Oh yeah.
Feel 99.9% of the time is I feel this and I think that, and it makes me feel I'm not happy, and I'm scared, and I'm
So the way I look at it,
that's the way we deal with shit. Focus.
The way I look
what
at
the
it.
problem is and get to the bottom of it.
If I may, the way I look at it is there's a couple of options. Humanity has been trained to respond this way almost systematically. So one of the options, whether I believe it's effective or not, it is proven if you saturate. If you saturate, propaganda has a very hard time to continue to exist. And I tend to think, and this is a subjective, I tend to think that that's where we're at in this position, is that saturation is going to cause people to be more objective and to be more like-minded like you or like me. I really don't care about how it makes me feel. I just want the fucking facts. I don't want the propaganda. I don't want the runaround. But the only way that I could go and see that was to kind of pull back and say, where are they playing both sides? And what they wait for is emotional justice. And so if you think about the reaction to Charlie Kirk's death, it was, especially for the youth, there was a huge drive initially for this large emotional justice seeking. By their playbook, they could have had us by the balls. There wasn't anyone willing to question anything. They wanted his head. And so I get the point of the frustration of like the people that don't need that. We just want the objective facts. But I also get the point that if you're going to decrease that emotional justice, one of the effective ways is to do it through information saturation. That can actually cause discernment and
focus saturation.
Focus saturation. Yes, I agree.
Let's talk to Robinson. Let's get the cameras. Let's hear the facts. We need to have the trials instead of spiraling around. If we just stuck with those three things, you talk to Tyler, get the cameras, and I forget what the third one was, but basically, go to the scene of the crime, get the actual physical evidence, talk to Tyler, get the cameras, and just get to the basics.
Now is how you're very appropriately focused on the topics that we've got posted on the space about it being, what happened with Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens' perspective and everything. But what I don't think you're hearing is that Marie is bringing a higher level of abstraction. It's not about any one given topic. It's not about the Charlie Kirk assassination.
I understand. I'm going to leave here in a second, but she's saying we need to get over the emotional thing. But then at the same time, she's being emotional. I'm just saying focus, and we'll get it done.
And you were trying to get through your own framework.
Thanks for
Wasting our time.
All right, so to characterize things through your own framework, and this is going to be appropriate for anybody, whether it's in this space, whether it's in a conversation with somebody in line at Starbucks or at church, wherever it is. What we have been programmed into collectively is viewing things through a certain lens, a certain framework, and it does not allow for the perspective of others or the possibility of additional information, whether that is from history that has been forgotten and rewritten, whether that is from information that used to be scientific and is now considered to be satanic, whether it is, fill in the blank. And so what I think we need to come back to and remember above all is that your perception is valuable, and it is not a matter of is something emotional or is something objective. You have to recognize that there is a balance in all of that. And I think, Marie, that's more what you were getting at, if I heard you correctly.
Yeah, and it really, as long as if we're the pendulum, our perception is the prize. They are constantly looking to control our perception. And we want to name the cabal, which Michael Corey and Vsauce did amazing. I mean, the digging on the British and the royalties and the crown is just phenomenal out of these two continuously. But, okay, well, let's go find them. So, what I'm saying is they are very efficient. They don't really, they have an idea of which way they want to turn out, but they'll play both sides. They'll capitalize on both sides because the goal ultimately is just like the American Civil War, is for us to just destroy ourselves for their benefit. And as long as we go ahead.
Here's a fun fact. So speaking of the Civil War, Mike and I were digging in the other day. Just so happens that the South didn't adopt the penal colony in the same way that the English used it. However, they did sublet out or sublease out labor that was withheld within institutions. So they would actually take prisoners and then sell their labor out to the open market. And that was one of the largest threats to the North market because they had access to low-cost labor in volume because they had so many prisoners. Gamblers, what you got, buddy? Marie, we'll jump back in just a second. Gamblers like throwing gang signs and stuff at me.
He didn't wait forever.
No, I take a look at all this and I just think of this all as diversion. And I understand it is important, but we're elected by the people, or we should be. And clearly, right now, our elected officials don't work for us. We all can see that. We all understand that. And I could go in and explain, and you could take a look at any election that has a vote by mail system. At the end of every election, they adjudicate the ballots and they fix every ballot that is in the wrong ballot style. That is what you see in all the Dominion machines and all that. And if you want to go ahead and fix it and kick them out and have our politicians actually listen to the people, you have to remove them out of the election. And that goes for every cabal group that there is out there, whether it be any of the groups controlling it. And you could go ahead and take a look at the laws that are passed, and you could go through every single one and see exactly when things change. And you could recognize it's happening by the same lawyers working for the same people and then the same subgroups underneath it. You could probably tie one in for each group that you're concerned about. And it's clear how much money we spend at the problems and all that stuff. But what I'm saying is that if we just take, I don't understand, I don't know. That's basically what I'm saying. Anyone have
It's like that.
Sometimes it'd be like that, though. And the election theft thing is going to come out to be like significantly larger than any of us had ever.
Well, you take a look at this last election, Prop 50, right? Prop 50, you had almost every single county in California have one ballot style. The reason why they did that is if they were to actually have reporting districts, you would have multiple areas where ballots shifted from one ballot style to another, meaning I mailed you out ballot type number 1, you mailed me back ballot type number 2. How did this happen? Well, it happened very simple. It's the process. And I'll tell you what the process is. You check all the signatures. Once they're verified, you move them to a slicer. They get sliced open and you pull all the ballots out. They go through the tabulator. The tabulator counts out each one of those ballots. Now you have 2 different reports. You have the report of all the ballots that came in, and you have all the report of the signatures. The adjudication process, which is recorded every single election, tells you every time that they needed to move one ballot from one style and move it to another style. That doesn't come from a mess up on the ballot. It doesn't come from the ballot being so wrinkled it needed to be redone. That comes from my only understanding is the only way that this happens is the registrar really screwed up when they mailed out the ballots, or someone during the process steamed open the ballot, switched out the contents, and replaced it. We're going to go into another election with a bunch of these states running elections that are primarily vote by mail. And the same organizations that help out with the migrant process, the same organizations that help out with the homeless process, the same organizations actually decertified our elections. And they're the ones that protected every single time anyone goes against it.
Yeah, well, it's so much worse than that. So it's not even that they're changing out ballots. They're actually accessing the back-end data and altering the outcome digitally. That's what they did. Shout out Maricopa County, you know. But we actually have the network maps, the access maps, where it came from, like, all that was mapped out 3 years ago. And
No. I get what the map does say, but I think people are misunderstanding it.
Oh no, there's no misunderstanding it, buddy. Those things are connected to the live internet, and they were accessed live through the internet manually through a relay server in Chile. Like that happened. It was done from Serbia, and it's about as egregious as you could possibly imagine. And not only that, there was a plot that started in at least 2018, probably 2019, and maybe even before that, with a series of certain governors that includes J.B. Pritzker to knowingly create sanctuary cities, import illegal migrants, knowing that it would alter the outcome of the census that would ultimately have an effect on the Electoral College. They've been running this gambit for a long-ass time, and they just got caught.
Well, I'll just tell you this with the tabulator. Like, the reason why I find that a little bit, you need a paper trail. And that paper trail matches with the machines. And I could tell you the adjudication process that every single county did, and they started doing this and they ramped it up. And it's based off of pool site voting rules. I know this because I've worked there for 20 years. I know exactly what we're doing and why you can barely find it. And the reason why they don't want that report out. What people are seeing is the 2 reports don't match. So what ends up happening real quick is they go, hey, look, we need to pull 400 ballots out of this precinct. We need to pull 300 ballots out of this precinct. We need to pull 300 ballots in this precinct, and we need to add 200 ballots in this one, and so on and so forth. That is done automatically, I bet you, with the new system that they have. Because the way we used to do it, and this is the ballots that you found underneath the table, what ended up happening was during the count, when they counting all the ballots, because they were used to be all sorted by friggin' precincts. And when they were all sorted by precincts, they would get rejected if it came back with the wrong ballot type. That number became so big that it was obvious that there was a problem. And when that happened, what they ended up doing over the middle of the night, they ended up counting all those ballots by most likely by just statewide and statewide and federal issues. And that's why every single one counted, because they no longer knew which precinct it was supposed to be, but they knew that ballot was wrong. And so what they ended up doing is counting it instead of making it, basically telling the people what ended up taking place. And so that is why every system uses the same thing, and that's why we separate the signatures from the ballot types. That's why there's an adjudication process that gets fixed manually. Now, if what you're saying is true, then someone at the registrar of voters office basically printed out another stack of paper that would add up to the machine. And that is probably why you can never really prove that out, because it doesn't really work that way.
That's the thing. It was proven, and the evidence wasn't allowed to be entered into court because it was Arizona. But Clay Parikh did a really good roundup on how to hack a machine with a paper clip. Actually, I think it was Nate Penn. Asterisk, I think it was Nate Penn. But there is an astonishing amount of network forensic scans that shows literally every thing that's connected to those networks and where they route back.
No, I get you on that, but the paper trail matches those machines.
Yes.
That is what I'm telling you, because when I worked there, up to the point that I worked there, that was always the case. There's a paper trail that gets printed out except for 1 year, and 1 year only, and I think that was back in 2006, when the machines did not have a paper trail. Now, do I trust that paper trail completely? No, the paper trail was burnt on the thermal paper. And thinking back at it, we should have never done it that way. We should have done specialty paper where we could track it.
Do you follow the Clinton Foundation whistleblowers by chance?
I tried talking to everyone at one point, and everyone said I was full of it, and now more and more people are coming down to my point of view on this.
Yeah, right. If you got time, quick, we're gonna cycle to another hand quick. Run over to it's CWFBERS is their handle, Clinton Foundation Whistleblowers. Go to their profile and search Post Office, Pennsylvania. And while you're doing that, because that's gonna blow your mind, the Post Office would not provide the information as to who actually paid for those freight transfers. And what's more interesting, and back in that time, there was speculation that the United States Post Office was moving ballots in post office trucks, but they would actually have the post office truck or the mail service truck, whatever it is, they would have it towed to a location so that there wasn't a driver affiliated with the route, and so that mileage wouldn't accrue on the vehicle, and it would look like it was down for maintenance, but it was actually transporting cargo from place to place on the back of a rollback instead of rolling down the road.
No, and I find that crazy. But I definitely need to look more into that, because I'm not saying every registrar is a good registrar. I believe that there are very corrupt ones and ones willing to go in and take a payday. And I bet you those are the ones that shit got happened to.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and the overwhelming majority of them, unfortunately. John, actually, you know what? John, I'm sorry, ladies first. Marie, circle back around. John will close it out. And I think Mike's phone just rang. He got the call to shut it down. Pretty sure his girlfriend's going to be calling him in like 10 minutes.
No, I got to jump into a meeting, so.
Yeah. So we'll close out the hands here. Marie, go right ahead. We'll jump over you to John, and we'll circle back around for closing remarks.
Well, I'll leave this a little more alone until another night. I had a very crazy interaction earlier this year. My license plate kind of started it, and if you want to know what my license plate says, I'll tell you, but it's pretty crude, and I'm kind of over the whole racial thing, so I said, why not make fun of myself? And anyway, if we want to get to that story, we can. It would be quick. It's interesting who the first legal slave owner was in the States to kick off this whole shebang. And I wanted to circle back to something you had said, Vsauce, through this election process and the voting machines. You had mentioned that certain governors opened the door for sanctuary cities and the mass immigration that was coming, but we all weren't aware of until it arrived on our doorstep. I am really waiting for, as we get through the 2020 fraudulent election, that we get to the money part. Because the money part is going to implicate the Catholic Church, the Lutheran Church, and the Jewish people, NGOs. Because those
it gets better. I'm sorry to cut you off, but it gets even better than that. So back when we were doing those network forensic scans into Arizona, we actually discovered an IP ping that triangulated or locally located within a quarter of a mile of a Latter-day Saints temple. Asterisk, just so you know, that actually happened.
Well, and that's another interesting part is if you look at some of the Latter-day Saint Church, they actually operated separate from the entire entity, and they operated as a sub NGO for these three main NGOs. So you have the Jewish people.
And they got body slammed.
Yes.
For Brian getting dang on a pseudo hedge fund without calling it hedge fund. That was like 3 years ago. They got tagged for a shit.
Well, these three main ones, just on the premise of immigration alone, what I've been tracking is they all came to the treasurer, and the DHS Mayorkas at the time was basically telling the people, if they come, just don't ask questions, transfer the money. This started under Obama. It really ramped up under Biden after they had him in for the immigration. And they used our tax dollars to fly all of these immigrants to the border. Because if you look at the Trail of Tears, as I nickname it, across the landscapes where these people supposedly migrated, it is impossible to do that in 3 months. It's a 10-month on foot, and good luck doing that with a backpack and a baby. It would have been like a full wagon train. But these NGOs came and they asked for an average of like $600 billion a piece, and it was transferred from our treasury, no questions asked. But what they also did is there's on average, 16 different sub-NGOs under each of these. And so all of those 48 also came to the government and asked for hundreds of billions of nonprofit religious-related monies. And then all of those sub-NGOs end up funneling and laundering the money to these three main. And that money, they used our tax dollars to violate our voting rights. They used our tax dollars to drop these people off at the border. And then further, with the corporations buying the single-story homes, they used our tax dollars to come in and tell those people, kick your renter out that's an American, we'll pay you double to house this migrant. And it's caused all of these crises. So for me, I know we're going to get close when those NGOs start getting implicated, not just with the immigration, like they have, but when they start getting implicated as the funding for the corruption in the voting.
That's correct. And Mayorkas was on the board of governors of FirstNet. By the way, that's an interesting piece of information that a lot of people overlook, and Mike knows why. And I was going to foray into doggone Cradle Point and all of that, but I don't know that that's even necessary.
Phone company controls everything you care about.
It's the Eye of Sauron.
That's the nuts and bolts of it. But let's jump to John and C11, and then we will wrap up.
Real quick point to what you're just talking about with Latter-day Saints too. Epic rabbit holes is the connection with the family tree services and DNA. Looking into that, who runs and controls a good majority of those operations. It'll blow your mind. Which is a good transition into, I guess, kind of my closing point with the guns turned inwards and international of sorts, because our alphabet soup agencies who are supposed to be protecting the outside from foreign interference, right, turn their guns inward. And this happened over a long period of time. So, I mean, pre-JFK, but, in modern history, let's just say JFK going forward. And, hence his big speech about, shattering the CIA and into thousands of pieces or whatever. But anyways, what came to fruition in physical form was Charlie Kirk. That was, call it theater, call it whatever you want. It was real that a man died, and it was broadcasted. That should be the tell of all tells. It's good to think international, but don't forget international is dealing with trade, state among state, and we can't forget that aspect of how that plays a role into things of foreign interference. And look here, not there, because then it shifts to foreign nations, international commerce, versus inside international trade amongst states and the nation states, right? And on the American side. And, I really wanted to say that because it's fascinating hearing the words district and registrar. And if you start researching terms based on these specific entities. And Gisela, that's a great point as far as the post, by the way. I mean, that's epic because how does the UPU, Universal Postal Union, tie into international and that?
John, we don't have time to talk about Bob Kramer tonight, buddy. Don't get me going on Russell J. Gould right now.
No, I know. I'm just saying it's crazy because it brings like a global aspect into constant, internal affairs. And we think our counties are one thing and our states are one thing, but ultimately it's like, we really got to look at the big picture of, the system and what the system is and what it's not. And I think that'll, give a big perspective on more, as well as, not just the minutia of the voting, but, the system that we're voting in. I think that's a really important part. But anyways, crazy.
It's weird you go to the post office to get your passport, isn't it?
Right. And we're supposed to go to the Secretary of State for state IDs, but how does the DMV play a role into this and the DOT? Weird.
They're private enterprises creating money for come on.
Exactly, man. Exactly. But great space, guys.
C11, we'll go to you and then we'll wrap.
Thank you. I'm going to keep it brief. I saw that there are a couple of users with the number 17, and so I will turn to page 17 of my advanced guidance systems to offer some insight. Hands down, the most terrifying movie I saw was a child. The most terrifying movie I saw as a child wasn't any of the horror films I watched. It was the trailer for Wait Until Dark. Before I even knew what Redacted and Redacted, I watched Redacted between Peter Finch and Murray Head in Sunday Bloody Sunday. I wasn't shocked, I was confused, but I was shocked by the Redacted and Redacted between Alan Bates and Oliver Reed in the trailer for Ken Russell's Women in Love. I also got the gist of the terrifying implications of male subjugation in the trailer for the prison drama Fortune and Men's Eyes. And for some reason, I found the trippy trailer for Frank Zappa's 200 Motels frightening. Was there any movie back then I couldn't handle? Yes. Bambi. Bambi getting lost from his mother, being shot by the hunter, and that horrifying forest fire upset me like nothing else I saw in the movies. It wasn't until 1974 when I saw Wes Craven's The Last House on the Left that anything came close. Now those sequences and
Howdy, Mr. Nasheed. I just wanted to bring up something very quickly to the Somalian community. You can't claim to be part of the FBA community or masquerade behind Black excellence when you act like the stereotype. A racist from 1961 would literally, this is his wet, you are his wet dream. All you do is scam people, you scam welfare, you're not honest, you steal everything that you touch, and then you want to just go back to your country. You are the stereotype. So all I'm saying is, Mr. Nasheed, you can't claim to be part of the community and then act 100% worse, 150% worse than the stereotype. I yield my seat.
There you go. Thank you so much. All right. Mr. John, hop on in, sir.
Hey, Tariq, I don't know you that well. So that former speaker, that was a roast, a barbecue. I don't know. Do you feel burned? Do you want to pass me the barbecue sauce?
Yeah, man. It was very interesting. Very, very interesting. What located, John?
I'm running for Congress in Illinois. I live in Chicago. It sounds to me like that former speaker was accusing you or other people of possibly being a part of clown world. And, it's my belief that the greatest threat to America is not the Jews and Israel or Europe and NATO or Russia and Putin, but it's the clown world citizens of America. It's the clown Americans everywhere at every major agency every major corporation. I'm not a disgruntled white person, who has had his job taken away and given to some H-1B visa. I'm just saying that it's my opinion that there's a lot of really brainwashed, maybe sincere people, but all communication is hypnosis. And when this campaign is over, either I'm going to open up a psychiatric facility for people who have Jewish derangement syndrome or have cell phone addiction, and are compulsive speakers and are compulsive thinkers and don't read books and don't go to the gym. So
facility for people who have Jewish derangement syndrome, and are compulsive
Kick me.
speakers and are compulsive thinkers and don't read books. And
Thank you. I don't know what he's talking about, to be honest. He kind of lost me. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. He kind of lost me. He's talking about clown world and all this. So I don't know what he's talking about. So Professor Alon in the building.
That was awesome.
Right. Shout out to everybody in here. Cornbread in here. Shout out to everybody in here. Cal in here. Everybody retweet the space. We got a lot of folks in here. So we in here heavy. We are in here heavy, ladies and gentlemen. Respect to the family. But we got to talk about, somebody brought this up earlier, about the coach over in Michigan who got, they fired him, Sharon Moore. Everybody's talking about that right now. Sharon, am I pronouncing his name right? Because I don't really follow the sports like that, but I'm following this story. Sharon Moore. This,
It's funny how if you do want to speak, you have to have a credible profile.
An NVIDIA token, so I need you guys to lock in because obviously if we're just going to be giving stuff away, we're going to be giving the alpha. I'm not even asking you guys to pay me for these spaces, right? Just come in, enjoy it for free, but please let everybody know about it. Let's get this in the algorithm. Let's all grow. I want everyone to leave here with more followers. I want everyone to leave here with higher engagements. And if that's not what you're coming in for, then I am sorry, but you are in the wrong space. You were supposed to go to the other one, and that is fine. You can still hang out. But, I mean, obviously your guys are here to grow. So with that being said, just do all of the above. And while you're at it, just mash that post up on the Jumbotron, guys. We're going to get as many people in that community as possible. And yeah, I'll shut the fuck up now. Miss, why don't you?
Let me put my glasses on so you can read what I'm
Get your
reading.
glasses and accept the co-host.
I just did. Since
No, you did not.
listen, I'm gonna read to you what I have after I accepted that. So want to help manage this recorded space as co-host. And I pressed yes.
Martha, don't you start lying to me. Or I'm gonna cancel it. I'm gonna send you another one.
Birth rates. So, yeah, lots to unpack, lots to cover. And look, when it comes to like this whole notion of porn, people think that it's just temporary, and you mentioned that digital prostitution, which is what the main source of it is these days, is up like 50-something thousand %. That's absurd. And there's this notion you see feminist, real men don't care about a woman's past. I know she's saying that sarcastically. Well, your past on the internet is whatever. So you make stupid decisions. You're gonna win stupid prizes. Your past will stay with you and be a continued stain on your reputation. So this notion of thinking so short-term gain won't have consequences long-term is delusion. Like, God, I don't know why you're here, man. Like, what's up? You want to spurg out again? Like, why?
Spurg! Is this Epstein Files case number room 1265?
It's one, man. It's slow right now. Anyway, I have some shit to do, so before it makes some noise.
Running off at the mouth. I want to say.
I'll just drop him.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm not gonna spurg out.
Why do you do that? Like, do you have some mental problem? Like, you think that the way you communicate is effective? Is that how you're gonna reach your masses and try to achieve getting into
Mental
Congress?
problems? I would rather read a book than be here right now. Are you kidding me? I want to go study the Torah and go read a book with my rabbi. I mean, I came here to make you guys laugh because you guys are obsessed with Jews.
Right. What you came to say? You're really done too? Yeah.
No, I'm not done.
What do you think? You're on FM radio or something? Like,
Is this the radio? I called FM 95.5. You're not playing my favorite songs anymore. Everything is Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. Jews, the Jews, the Jews. Israel. Manipulation.
How much money have you gotten yet?
I don't know. Has Ukraine gotten the $1 billion yet? Has Israel gotten the extra $600 billion? How much more money are we going to send to Ukraine and Israel? Have they gotten their shekels yet?
He's under the spell. He's so annoying.
Hold on, you guys. I got a call from my APAC handler. They want me to update my shtick. Please hold.
But you're not even good enough for APAC. Stop being pathetic.
Well, Zelensky is good enough for us. No need to hold open and fair elections in Ukraine. Just send Zelensky another $800 billion.
I double dog dare you to stick your tongue to a pole outside in the winter.
I triple dog dare you to read a book.
Hey, John, I don't know if you saw my most recent post. Zelensky's got an Israeli passport.
Oh, hey, man, it's true. It's a global conspiracy.
The guys, they've been busted for corruption, stealing, and they took off to Israel. What do you think he's going to do? All that money he stole, the villas he's bought, he owns a hotel, a casino, probably has a brothel too. They won't mention that part. You know, the mayor of Kiev, the town of Vladimir Klitschko, he owns over 100 brothels. Yeah, he's a Jew. So this is what the Jews do. And they're all about pornography. You're going to learn about Samuel Roth. Well, it's funny that not a single U.S. politician cares about degeneracy laws or obscenity laws, is what it is specifically. None of them want to go back and change that stuff to protect the kids. Because most of these sites that you carry, well, I don't know if you do, if you even care about child trafficking, but they use pornography sites to post videos of child sexuality and child rape. Are you aware of that?
Well, I'm trying to be a little funny. It's getting late. Well, I know Jews own it.
The level of your ignorance is that millions of young girls are on OnlyFans, and it's advertised to them at a young age, and that's owned by a Jew too, Leonid Radvinsky. So you're obsessed with Jews. When you say stuff like that, I name names on every single space.
Have you heard of Yitzhak Rabin?
Episode 120 on the Uncensored Epstein Files. I'm naming you.
Have you heard of Menachem Schneerson?
You sit there and cry with your shitty mic all you like, and I'll just mute you. Anyway, you can bitch about it and cry all you like. Take your message wherever, and then nobody's going to go find a soapbox somewhere. Or maybe someone will listen to you. Why don't you go on Stealth Space? She'll appreciate someone like you. Maybe she'll even help fundraise for you. She's got nothing else to do. She's just a bored, lonely, whatever she is. I don't know. I think she's a divorcee. I don't want to make fun of her person. I don't even care. The point is, maybe you'll get some support over there. Your views may be popular, but here, I expose the Jewish problem, especially when it comes to degeneracy, pornography, child trafficking, because that's what they're all about. That's what they do. That's what they're proud of. So you can sit there and cry and say it's an obsession. No, it's called a concern, a legitimate concern, because kids shouldn't be trafficked. Maybe you're okay with stuff like that. Maybe you're all about child molestation. Maybe you were molested as a child, so you don't care and it's normalized for you. But it's not for me.
Projection alert! Projection alert!
But so you can comment.
Projection alert!
I only brought you up so
Projection
I can tell
alert!
you face what I think. And if you annoy me a little more, I'm just going to drop you.
Projection alert!
Like you did, and then you won't even get to listen anymore. You'll have to use an alt account or whatever it is you fucking do.
An alt account. I want to go to bed. I'm tired.
You can fuck right off, as far as I'm concerned. This is a serious conversation, and I go out of my way to provide receipts and research for the stuff that I do. A clown like you just wants to distract from a serious message because you want the Jews to get away with their crimes. You want to be a serious platform.
Somebody's a little triggered.
Even though you
Somebody's a little triggered. Are you American?
It's a legitimate concern. The biggest human trafficker and blackmailer, according to Howard Lutnick, is Jeff Epstein. And there's Jews that created the circumstances for guys like Jeff Epstein to thrive in and push child pornography, which he has a ton of. The FBI's got a lot of the evidence, thousands and thousands of hours of child sex trafficking, child rape, essentially, that these politicians have done. So there's every reason in the world to be concerned about stuff like this. The fact that you're not just goes to show you're no better than like a Pierce Morgan that's tolerant of everything. A fucking cuck.
And his wife took a 6-week sabbatical from their marriage to go fuck other guys. Guys like you think that's okay though? Hey, that's women. That's a woman.
Piers Morgan's wife was a fucking.
Hand her a tampon when she needs it. You're that guy that'll make breakfast for your wife's boyfriend the next day. That's how you sound when you talk. A fucking simp. I'm pathetic.
Gotta clip this.
Where you going?
This is a good roast.
So either man up, find your balls. Maybe you do some testosterone injections so you don't sound like a high-pitched little bitch. And maybe someone will take you seriously, because for now you're just a big joke. So it's been fun. I have a few things to do. And if you piss Joanne off, she's for bullshit, and she's got her Judar on, you're just going to get dropped like a bad habit. I'll leave it there. Go ahead, Joanne.
That was a good roast. I like self-deprecation.
He got muted on his own. That was amazing. He stands for nothing. That's why no one supports you, John.
That's projection, bitch.
John, you're going to get one vote.
That's all projection. When you told me that I was raped and molested by a family member, that's projection. When you say nobody's going to vote for me and I'm a loser, that's projection. This is the projection show. You guys have an unincorporated shadow self. Go study C.G. Young. Read a book. Try to do an education room instead of wasting your life talking about a dead guy.
This is literally an education room.
Every fucking episode comes with full receipts.
This is a political room, you schmuck. This is politics. This isn't education. Go read your Bibles. Turn your phones off. Am I the guy from Network?
Settle down with somebody. Male, female, whatever.
Male, female. Are you accusing me of being a homosexual, sir? I love pussy. And if you don't love pussy, you're like Milo Yiannopoulos and Nick Fuentes and maybe Tim Pool, because I don't think Tim Pool's wife is giving him any. Otherwise, he wouldn't be making fake news reports about people shooting at his house.
Else like this.
Which bar do you frequent, John? Where are you in Florida?
There's no alcohol. I'm in Illinois. I'm running for Congress here in Illinois. I have no alcohol. This is pure energy, pure spirit. Because when Jewish derangement syndrome and Jew hate becomes the topic of every night's conversation, you might be a schmuck. Go read a book. Go to the gym. Do something with your life.
We fucking despise that. The despise is put into every fucking episode, but you are too ignorant and retarded to figure that out. Okay?
That's like your opinion or something, dude, and that's projection.
Chicago, Illinois. Top 10 things, John, since you're Congressman. Since you're running for Congress. Top 10 things
that annoy me about Chicago? Well, first of all, Brandon Johnson, our mayor, is a communist from the Chicago Teachers Union who doesn't know simple mathematics. He's the dumbest human being you've ever met. And we live in clown world. Well, sometimes you got to play the fool to help convert people to become the sage. I'm just saying, if you've never studied the Torah and you've never read a book, you might be low IQ and your LLM brain might not have enough vocabulary in it to understand the gravity of the situation.
That people like you do the same as the people before you. That you can drop wherever you want.
brothers in Chicago.
Just doing a couple things. John, you got maybe a few minutes. Take advantage. You're not going to have enough space. It's going to get busier too, so you can be a dumbass. You'll immediately get dropped. Or you can smart the fuck up. Maybe you'll stick around a little bit longer. So
I got a sleep schedule. It's called my circadian rhythm. I'm not up all night till 3 in the morning talking about Jeffrey Epstein.
I bet you can't even spell circadian rhythm. So anyway.
Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, if there's one thing of value that I can offer you here tonight, it's to take the deepest breath of the day, hold it for 10 seconds. This is your Jeffrey Epstein meditation moment. Go within and experience the Jewish Zen philosophy of enlightenment.
Hold it for 10 seconds. This is your Jeffrey Epstein meditation moment. And experience.
Hey everyone. Thank you so much for hosting.
That was huge.
So much for being here. And guys, please repost this space. And
Hope you guys enjoyed.
I